Hello lovely crafters, it's Kim here from Cupcake Cutie Craft, and I'm popping in today to teach you a little bit of latch hooking. This is our latch hook and our rug canvas and a bit of yarn, and then I've got a rug yarn gauge too, which I'll briefly show you as well. So let's have a little lesson. There are a couple of techniques, but this is the one that I like to use. So again, if you've got any questions or comments or want to see something else, just leave a comment and subscribe, and yeah, we'll do some crafting together. Have fun. So insert your hook in and then pull it back gently and just let that little lever just sit there. Now I'm using 3 strands to make it nice and fluffy. You might only be using 1 if you've got a really thick yarn. But the idea is the same, that it folds around the little arm of the latch hook and you grip it in one hand and you go between the lever and under the little hook and pull it through. It wasn't my best work as a first example, but that's okay. And you'll get the hang of this really quickly. So pop the hook in and make sure that little lever comes up and sits there. Grab your yarn. We're going to give it a little trim at the end, so don't be too worried if it's not perfectly lined up. So between the lever and under the little hook and pull through. I kind of do a little twist at the end, and that seems to help it come through better. Sometimes I hold on to that little lever too. So you can see how that is working. And on the back it should look quite neat. So I'm going to show you how I've actually cut my yarn. You can buy rug yarn pre-cut, but it's quite expensive and I like to use lots of different yarn. So I've actually got my dad to whip me up these, what they're called is a yarn gauge. So effectively, the distance from one side at the top to the other side is the length that your yarn is going to be. And there's a channel we're going to cut through. So we're holding the yarn and we're going to just wrap it round and around. Ideally, you should put the yarn side by side and do it quite carefully, but just for this video, I'm being a bit random here. And I would go right up the length of the yarn gauge and then do another layer coming back. You don't want to do too many layers, otherwise your lengths of yarn will get a little bit too long. But just to show you, to demonstrate. So wrap it round. Hold the other side and just snip off the ball of yarn. And then just snip through the channel in the middle. And then you'll end up with yarn pieces that are all the same length. So you could use strips of fabric, any kind of yarn, and with these nifty gauges you can cut your own. So I'll carry on and do a few more stitches just so that you can get the idea of it again. Once you've been doing it for a while, you'll really pick up the speed. And sometimes I get the little hook caught on a bit of yarn in the end and it might fray a little bit like that first stitch, but you can easily just snip those bits off at the end, so don't worry about being too perfect. And I like using 2 or 3 pieces of yarn at once because it makes the final latch hook product really nice and fluffy. And when you're trimming it into all sorts of shapes and things, it works really well. So So off to the side of me is my actual pattern. This is a licorice all sort I'm starting on. So I am looking at my pattern. So each little hook that I'm doing is one square on my pattern. So I'll have to do a video tutorial on how you can design your own patterns, I think, and how to follow a pattern. But I thought this is a good starting point, especially if you've bought one of my kits and you want to sort of see it in action. This is to really just help you get started, because sometimes I think it's just easier to see it than trying to explain it. I've just realised I'm about to put one in the wrong spot. There's not one there, so paying attention to my pattern, and we'll put it in the right spot. The great thing about latch hook is if you do put a stitch in the wrong spot, it's very easy to undo and then just correct it. So not like punch needle where you'd have to unravel a whole lot. With latch hook you can just undo an individual stitch and redo it, which is really great, especially if you don't notice you've done a mistake until later on. Okay, and that's what the back's looking like again. And do another stitch, and then you can go off and practice your own. If you've got any comments or questions, please leave them, or any videos you'd like to see, just let me know.